political back and forth in South Korea. Joining us now with the very latest on the situation is JJ Green.
When he made this announcement, it just shocked people.
The largest hack of our telecom system in American history.
You know, this guy that was assassinated in New York, this health official, people are fed up. They're fed up with the inequality in this country. They're looking for a solution. And it's a new game out there.
The opposition party, the Democratic Party, they literally climbed the fence to get back into the National Assembly to vote to lift the, if you will, the martial law decree.
The one big counterterrorism concern I have is that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which is the leading group of that alliance of militant forces, is an outgrowth of Al-Qaeda. Yes, they separated a couple of years ago. However, they have, apart from announcing this separation, not really shown any sincere intention to separate themselves from international terrorism, i.e. they still harbor foreign terrorist fighters from the Maldives, from Albania, even Germans among their ranks, in the areas around Idlib, which they had exerted control over since 2020. There are other terrorist groups, and HTS has never arrested or extradited any one of those foreigners and giving them to their governments. They threw them out of their group. If they were resisting, they killed them, but they never handed them over. So it very much looks like an Afghanistan situation on steroids because it is a car ride away from Europe now.
Nuts and bolts. What does this mean for the West, specifically the United States?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would say don't bury Assad yet, right? No one has to be sad about the Assad regime. This is a real war criminal. 500,000 Syrians have been killed in this war in Syria in the last couple of years. The absolute majority from his regime and his backers, Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah. And he's not out yet. He's a strategic asset both to Iran, which needs him as a bridge to Lebanon, as well as for Russia, which has some bases, including a harbor and air bases in Syria that they like to have. So they will make sure he survives. But we see an increasing territory in Syria, which is now run by an ex-Al-Qaeda group, and this can never be good news for us.
Now, in terms of there are U.S. forces in Syria, but there is a bigger worry here now, not just about these troops being attacked, but as you said, just a car ride from Europe. Now, does Al-Qaeda have any stake or say in what this group is doing, or do they reap any benefit from what this group is doing? What about ISIS? What about some of the other organizations? I've heard that there may be several that have some stakes in this situation.
Yes, of course. Turkey certainly has a stake in it. It supports this coalition for the time being. The US troops are there exclusively to fight the Islamic State. And they've been, so far in the last days, been staying out of this fight, although there was the first attack against the US camp, as far as I understand, today by one of the rebel groups. Al-Qaeda has not a control over HTS, but HTS winning is not bad for Al-Qaeda in Syria. They're missing, since HTS and its leader Jolani officially and openly broke with them. I say we are no longer part of Al-Qaeda. They're missing a flagship group in Syria. They do have small cells and individuals that are loyal to them and that are tolerated to a certain extent by HTS. And you can never guarantee, once HTS is back in power, that they don't rejoin Al-Qaeda, because the deal at the time of separation was, and Jolani asked the Al-Qaeda leadership if he would be allowed to separate. That's how deep it ran at that point. The deal was, or the answer from Al-Qaeda was, you do whatever you need to do to survive in Syria. Because at that point, you had the height of the Islamic State in Syria, you had the beginning of the counter-Daesh coalition, and there was, of course, a real risk that if he wouldn't separate from Al-Qaeda, that he would be simply swept up in the counterterrorism operations that the international community conducted in Syria and Iraq, and it would end. And hence, it was a tactical separation. So there's no guarantee that he's not going to rejoin, or even if he doesn't rejoin officially, that he wouldn't allow Al-Qaeda to operate again more freely in larger parts of Syria. And Al-Qaeda always has more plans than just one individual country. We are, as Europeans and you as Americans, very high up on the priority list of enemies that should be fought.